Yeah, usually I'm not distracted by shiny things, but... Hi, I'm Lulu, but today I will be your friendly neighborhood snark reader as I will be reviewing Isles of the Emberdark by Brandon Sanderson. So I have been hesitant to take a risk on Sanderson ever since Wind and Truth. That experience was very much like watching Rise of Skywalker. Once it was over, I felt nothing. I didn't care about Star Wars anymore. Not even the original ones. Likewise, even though The Way of Kings was hands down one of the best novels I've ever read and awoke that long-forgotten sense of childhood wonder I once had, Wind and Truth didn't just put that sense of wonder back to sleep, it murdered it, and there was no telling if there was any resurrecting it. I was, in fact, so afraid to find out for sure that I just avoided reading any Sanderson at all whatsoever. Then my sister lent me this fancy pants leather-bound edition of Isles of the Emberdark, and I love leather-bound books. Not buying them because I'm a miser, but I love looking at them. Now, I don't know if this is only in the leather-bound edition, but the black pages with the silver lettering, it looks wicked awesome. It does become a bit of a strain on the old eyeballs after a minute or two. Maybe that's just me. Having some really good lighting definitely helps though. You had to have that booklight right on there. Anyway, it wasn't just the aesthetic appeal that won me over. When my sister lent it to me, she told me that the central character was Sixth of Dusk, and that changed a lot. For anyone who doesn't know, Dusk is a character that comes from an older Sanderson short story, and he was a character that I'd always wanted to hear more about. And that seemed like a sign that maybe it was time to give Sanderson another chance. I mean, it was only like a year or two that I finally rewatched A New Hope and suddenly remember like, oh yeah, these movies are actually really good. I kind of forgot. So maybe Dusk's new adventure would prove to do the same with dynamic storytelling and compelling characters that would reinvigorate my long-lost love for Sanderson's works. So was Emberdark a return to form for Sanderson, whose older stories have defied expectation and wowed readers for years? Or was it another awkward Gen Z slang-filled jumble that left me apathetic about the characters and stakes in Sanderson's work altogether? Honestly, a little bit of both, but more positive than negative, leaving us with a book that is adequate. And that's more than I got out of Wind and Truth, so I'll take it as a win. Let's dig into it. So right off the bat, this is a Cosmere novel, which requires a lot of previous Cosmere knowledge to understand. Compare that to Trust of the Emerald Sea, another Sanderson secret project Cosmere novel. While Sanderson fanatics will read it and think, ah yes, investiture, a newbie would just enjoy the cute little fun fantasy story with a nifty magic system involving magical spores. Yeah, the former reader gets a little more out of it, but both readers can understand and appreciate the story. Not so much with Emberdark. We delve heavily into Shadesmar and the various Cosmere worlds in this book. Next, I have to bring up the prose. No, Sanderson's prose has never been top tier, and I won't pretend it ever was. But it's gotten far cringier lately. Gen Z dialogue, lame jokes that go on for way too long, and a handful of characters that are so one-dimensional they might as well have come straight from Flatland. Oh, and then there's Brandon Sanderson's newest habit of beating the reader over the head with the obvious. It'd be like, she gasped, a sign of being shocked. Yeah, thanks for spelling it out for us there, Brandon. Also, the ellipses. I know every writer has their pet phrases and punctuation. I'm looking at you, M-Dash. But seriously, 4 or 5 ellipses in a single page just drives me so crazy I want to throw the book across the room. But I think the biggest flaw with this book was the second protagonist and her ragtag team of cardboard cutouts that I couldn't care less about. This character would be Starling, or Illustrandrundria, or LT, as she's called in like 2 chapters for no reason. Not sure what that stands for, but I thought it was legally required for everyone who goes by initials to include a J in there. You know, AJ, JD, DJ, MJ, CJ, JJ, OJ, whatever you call her. I just couldn't get into her chapters. Dusk I liked just as much as I liked him in the original short story. So when we switched from a Dusk chapter to a Starling chapter, it just took the wind right out of my sails and I had to push to keep reading, which is weird because Starling should be awesome. She's a dragon forcibly locked in human form, living as an exile as a captain of an interdimensional ship. How cool does that sound? And that's why it's so frustrating to be so whelmed by her chapters. Not underwhelmed and certainly not overwhelmed, just whelmed. These chapters aren't bad per se, they're just not that compelling, at least juxtaposed with the chapters featuring Dusk. The main reason for this is that Dusk is a well fleshed out character, while Starling's crew, much like the Sleepless, are basically all the same person, just split into a bunch of different bodies. Sanderson tries to tack on a quirk or two onto each of them, but it feels a little shallow. Now onto the positives. While this book does require Cosmere knowledge to understand, it does not require you to have read the original short story. As for me, it had been so long since I'd read the original that I really only remembered the broad strokes. But Sanderson weaves the original short story very naturally into the beginning of this book, so whatever your history with that short story, it doesn't really matter. And as I said before, Dusk is a fascinating character. A man who's known since childhood that he's a dying breed. His world is at its dusk, and a new age is on the horizon. An age that no longer needs him and can move on just fine without him. And as is true with most Sanderson novels, the cultures and religions and magic systems are all worked out beautifully. I also love any story that explores the ideas of myths and how they shape culture and any possible true history that might have shaped the myth. I find that concept endlessly fascinating. My first ever novel was centered around this concept, but all you writers out there will know how first novels go. Unlike my attempt at this, however, Sanderson does a very good job of exploring the concept and giving it a satisfying conclusion. So often I'll see writers try to deconstruct myths with modern knowledge, which usually just neuters the myth and makes it boring and robs it of all its mystique. But I appreciate that while Sanderson does give an in-world scientific explanation for these things, he also leaves them feeling mystical and mythic. So yeah, there are some pros, there are some cons. Would I recommend this book? I'd say yeah, if you have previous Cosmere knowledge anyway. It won't knock your socks off, but it also won't have you feeling like an empty husk of a person. So it's worth a shot. Final score? 6 AVR out of 10. But that's just this reader's opinion. Maybe you guys out there have a different take. Do you think this is more of a return to form for Sanderson or just another letdown? Drop your comments down below. Like and subscribe for more content like this in the future, and I'll see you in the next video.